Welcome to another episode of the Victory Podcast, driven by Audi. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by my co-host and former USC quarterback, Cody Kessler. Cody, we are back for our final preseason episode. We're going to talk about a real game pretty soon here, but I'm excited to wrap this preseason up.
Yeah, it's like a teaser episode. Like, I'm ready to dive into some Missouri State film and talk about that, but we do have a couple topics that we have to address before the season starts. But yeah, it's you can feel it. I mean, the energy in the air. I was walking through campus right now. The band's playing. Salute to Troy's getting set up. They're getting ready to do that. Keely is going to be emceeing Salute to Troy, by the way, tomorrow. So look out for those clips and support her. But it is almost game week. It's mock game week for the team right now, too. So they're doing a little dry run. We're doing the same thing right now. And in less than 10 days, USC football is going to be back. So I'm excited, and get your popcorn ready.
I'm excited. This episode, we have another Cover 2 segment, and we have a game as well. Excited to get into it. Like Cody said, we're about to get into our regular season schedule, which means you can expect a preview episode and a recap episode from us every week. You can subscribe where you get your podcasts and on the USC Athletics YouTube channel. Also, just a note, I'm about to say you can also ask questions on our socials, Victory Pod USC, but we're making a change this year. For efficiency's sake, we're not going to take questions on Sundays. If you really want your question, please just put it in the Wednesday preview episode. That's what we're going to be doing this season, just to make sure we can get those the recap episodes out quicker. It just helps in that sense. Oddly enough, it takes like an hour and a half to actually put the questions together, make sure they are readable, all that stuff. So it's going to make it faster. We just want to make sure that this year is efficient, and that's one of the things we're going to do. Yeah,
and with that being said, too, we would pretty much, and we're going to, on these Sunday recap episodes, we answer pretty much every topic that came up in the game. And then when we got to the question portion, I was just repeating myself almost on some of those. So we will answer everything that you need to know, every big topic about that game we will talk about. And then if you do have a question that maybe we didn't address when that episode comes out, save it for the next preview episode. And then when we get to the end, after we preview that week's opponent, we can go back and touch on some other things that are going to be important going forward and maybe some ongoing things. But like Keely mentioned, those Sunday episodes we're turning into 2.5-hour episodes because of the questions at the end, and that's tough for you to get it out and be relevant with the episode before we go into the next week. So I agree. I think that's a good idea. Yeah,
and we're taping Trojans Live at 11 a.m. On Mondays now, so it's not like you and I can record until 2 a.m. these days anymore. we gotta get to the studio early on Mondays as well. So we're trying to make things efficient and hopefully get you a better product as well. Alrighty, that's what I have for reminders, Cody. Let's head into our Cover 2 segment. 2 important questions as we head into the season. First one for you, Cody. What are your expectations for USC's wide receiver room? We kind of talked about it a little bit here in the preseason, but I didn't get your full thoughts about this position group.
Yeah, this is really the last position group for us to address going into this season. My expectations are extremely high. I mean, thanks to all of the great wide receivers that have worn the Cardinal and Gold in the past, the expectations for that room or for playing wide receiver here at USC are always going to be through the roof. This year is no exception. And in my opinion, I truly believe that the wide receiver room is the most important unit for this USC offense that they want to be successful this year. I know that we want to see the offensive line be dominant this year. I know we want to establish the run game, and that needs to happen. But at its core, this offense is still a Lincoln Riley air raid type of offense, and it is at its best when it is explosive and when it's dangerous and when it has the capability of scoring from anywhere on the field at any point in time or putting together a 3-play, 75-yard, 30-second drive. Those things have to happen, and you can't do that if you don't have dominant weapons on the outside and at the perimeter. Now, I know there's questions at the quarterback spot for USC this year, and can Mayava be the guy? I know there's questions at the offensive line and what that unit's going to look like with all these new faces and the new rotation guys up there. I know we have 3 very talented running backs, but we don't know what that dynamic's going to look like yet, and we really don't know what we're going to see from those guys in that room with all the excitement that we already have. But what we do know and what is guaranteed is that we have 2 dominant, game-changing playmakers on the outside in Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. Every great offense in the NFL and college has a dominant wide receiver 1 and a dominant wide receiver 2, or a 1A, 1B. The Minnesota Vikings have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. The Bengals have Jamar Chase, have T. Higgins. The Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. The Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. The list goes on and on. USC has Lane and Lemon. They have Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. And those guys, for this USC offense to be dominant, they need to be at their best this year. Jacoby Lane, in my opinion, is one of the best wide receivers in college football. Unbelievable talent, unbelievable catch radius, can make these amazing one-handed contortionist catches and twist his body and do all these things. Just this year, he needs to be a little bit more consistent on a week-to-week basis, in my opinion. There were games last year, Wisconsin, 10 catches, 100-plus yards, 2 touchdowns. The bowl game, 3 touchdowns, over 125 yards. All these big-time games that he had, but there were too many throughout the year where it was 2 catches for 15 yards, 1 catch, no catches. He needs to be consistent on a week-to-week basis this year. Now, I know that it was a crowded wide receiver room a year ago, and that played a factor, and it was tough for everybody to get their touches, but now it's really just Lane and Lemon as the top 2 guys, so I expect him to have a lot bigger role, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do with that. I'll also say this, and I know that he won't, so I'll say it for him. I thought it was extremely, extremely disrespectful that Jacoby Lane was left off of the Biletnikoff Award watch list. I really did. And for a guy that was top 5 in the country last year with 12 receiving touchdowns to not even be on a preseason watch list was very disrespectful. You better put some respect on Nate's name, because I promise if you don't, he is going to show you and let you know very quickly. So I look forward to that. Again, I know he won't say it, so I'll say it for him. And I'm going to fight for my Trojans. Now, looking at Mekhi Lemon and what he's been able to do, I really believe this. I think he's barely scratching the surface on how good he's going to be on this team and in this offense. Last year, he was pretty quiet for the beginning of the season. I know he had the injury against Michigan, which took him out for a couple games. But after that Maryland game, he kind of came alive, and we saw what he was capable of doing in this offense. For the last 7 games, in my opinion, I thought he was USC's number 1 wide receiver, and that was an argument that we had back and forth on the Tailgate Show on Trojans Live. He really stepped up. Now you give him a full offseason to prepare as a number 1 or a 1A, 1B with him and Lane, and now you give him more reps and more opportunities. I think he is going to be a breakout star at the college level, and another guy that can be up for that Biletnikoff Award list. And I'm excited to see what they can do. And talking about Mekhi Lemon, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. And go back and watch some film. We got some time before next week's game. Go throw on some Mekhi Lemon highlights from a year ago. He reminds me a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I just talked about him a second ago. Very similar body type, very similar skill set. Not the biggest guys in the world, but not afraid to go across the middle and go make those tough catches and take some of those hits. Very clean, precise, crisp route runners, which is so important at the college level and even more important in the NFL. And that's why we've seen Amon-Ra excel the way he has in the NFL and become one of the best receivers because of how good of a route runner he is. And then again, for not being the biggest guys, their catch radius is awesome. And they can go make those tough, strong hand catches and those 50-50 balls that you have to take away from the defensive back. They do a great job of that. Now, I'm not saying he's there yet, and I'm not saying he's Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that backs up my point of him reaching that potential that he has. I truly believe that he can have a ceiling close to an Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's just up to him to get there. Now, with that being said, and how great those guys are, the biggest question for this wide receiver room that I have is who is going to be that third option. Who's going to be the next guy after them? Because there's going to be games where Jacoby Lane is going to be taken out of the game plan and double-teamed all game. There's going to be games where they're going to double-team Mekhi Lemon. He's taken out of the game plan, and you're going to have another guy step up outside of those two. When you look at the roster, I like what I see. There are some guys that have some promise on there. The first one to me is Xavier or DJ Jordan, whatever you want to call him.
He's going to go by DJ.
DJ, okay. Yeah. I know him as Xavier from a year ago, but I saw on the roster he went by DJ. So DJ Jordan, I'm excited for him. We saw some flashes last year in the spring and the offseason, what he can do. Got buried a little bit on the depth chart with all the guys we had a year ago, but now he has a true opportunity to step up into that number 3 spot. Prince Strawn, the transfer from Boise State, very excited about his skill set. 6'5", 215 pounds, outside as an X or as a Z. That is a weapon, especially down in the red zone, and he's already proven to be a playmaker at the Division I level at Boise State. Now I can't wait to see what he can do in Lincoln Riley's offense. Another guy, another transfer player is Zacharias Williams from Utah. Very highly recruited out of high school, went to Utah, showed some flashes, only had 10 catches a year ago, didn't get a ton of production, but you saw glimpses of how good he can be, and I think he's going to fit great into this offense. He can play outside, he can play inside. I can't wait to see how Lincoln Riley uses him. And then Jay Fair's another guy, Jaden Richardson, some other guys returning from a year ago. They're going to have some more familiarity in this system, and I'm excited to see their development. But then 2 other guys that I want to mention to bring everybody's attention to, and I'm sure if you've been watching clips from camp or you've been reading about all these things and listening to the interviews, you've heard their names, but 2 freshmen to keep an eye on. We have Corey Sims and Tanook Hines, 2 very good players. And it wouldn't be a Victory Pod episode if I didn't see this and go watch some high school highlight films and break down some tape.
Did you? Okay.
I went back and I was watching Hines and Sims film last night at about 1 a.m.
Of course.
Learning about who these guys are. And I'll start with Sims for 2 very good players. But Sims, 6'3", 215-pounder. He's out of St. Louis, Missouri. Very solid route runner. On his high school film, he plays X, he plays Z, but he also plays in the slot. And as a 6'3", body type and that style. That's rare to see, but he does a good job of it. And he's athletic enough with the ball in his hands and shifty enough, even with that frame, to play slot, have some of those crossing routes, to do these different things. And he's good with the ball in his hands. You'd think he'd be a little more stiff, very fluid, physical with his stiff arm, but also has the finesse to get around some guys. But where he is an absolute weapon is down in the red zone. When you go watch his tape, multiple crossing routes down there, multiple back end line, which we love throwing, where you go left to right and then have him coming back across the end line, throw that 10-foot ball, right? Throw it at the rim. I'll let him go get it. Does a great job of that. And he can separate on some of those goal balls. We know USC needs to be better with a deep threat this year, so look for Sims to be that guy. And then Tanuk Hines, another guy from Houston, Texas, 6'1", 205-pounder. I am excited about his skill set. When I watched his film, the first note I wrote down was just get him the ball in his hands and get out of the way. Let him do the rest. There's plenty of clips to where he catches it on the left, reverses field, goes back to the right, makes multiple guys miss. Very shifty, very precise route runner, kind of like Makai Lemon. He's in the right spot at the right time, which is so important, especially for a young quarterback, because I can trust that you're going to be where you need to be when you need to be there. That's rare to see in a young guy as well. You don't see that a whole lot. That takes time to develop, but he understands concepts and spacing. So again, I don't know how much of an impact these two guys will have, but I'm very excited about their development. And Lincoln Riley has mentioned that they've made an impact this year, so I wouldn't be surprised with Riley's offense about how many times he rotates guys that they're going to have to step up and make some big-time plays this year. And I know we're talking about wide receivers and who that third option is going to be, but I don't want to discredit the tight end room as well. I could see Lake McCree. I could see Walker Lyons, one of those guys being that legit third option, especially with those clips we've seen from Walker Lyons at practice, opening up the middle of the field, taking some of those shots in cover two, those bender routes, getting over the Mike linebacker. Now, we have guys like Desmond Stevens and Eric Gentry, so you're not going to quite have a 6'6" middle linebacker, but Walker Lyons has shown that he's capable of doing that, and I think he's going to be able to do that this season. So I'm excited, but at the end of the day, we got Jacoby Lane, Makai Lemon, but whoever that next guy is going to be, you have to be ready at all times whenever your name and number is called upon, because you're going to have to make some big-time plays this year.
Well, many follow-up questions from that, Cody. First one, it's actually a question from Abro. He was wondering, from your perspective as a quarterback, what are the characteristics of a wide receiver 3? Like, are there any specific qualities? Yeah,
the first thing is being very selfless. You cannot have that. You cannot have an ego as a wide receiver 3, even a wide receiver 2. Now, I don't know who's 1 and 2 yet for USC with Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane. You can argue for both being 1 or 1A, 1B. But if you're that second or even third guy, your ego is checked at the door. Your ego is checked when you step onto Howard Jones Field. When you step foot on game day onto the Coliseum turf, your ego's out the window. You may get 2 targets, but you have to take advantage of those opportunities, and they have to be the best 2 targets or the best 2 reps that you're going to have that entire game, because you're going to get a limited opportunity, but you have to make the most of it. Also, there's going to be a game to where you're going to get 7, 8, or 9 targets, like I mentioned with Lane or Lemon getting double-teamed, or knock on wood, injuries happen, or a guy may come up with a hamstring or a leg injury that's out for a week or 2. You go from wide receiver 3 to now 2 or 1B. So you have to be ready at all times. But the biggest thing for that is, like I said, check your ego at the door. You're only going to get a couple targets. We're going to try to feed the ball to Lane, try to feed the ball to Lemon. But like last year with Kyle Ford and the Texas A&M game, that was a perfect example.
Yeah,
Lane had a great game. Lemon had a great game. Kyle Ford was the hero of that game, catching the game-winning touchdown pass with 7 seconds to go. That is the definition of a wide receiver 3. Be ready for your moment, make the most of it. And we've got a lot of guys on this roster that can really be that.
Well, speaking of that bowl game, we've talked about it a lot, but that was a game where we liked the fact that USC was forced to only throw to a couple receivers. I know that it was almost a debate we had in the season is there too much love being spread around with the wide receivers? In this case, when you clearly have a 1A, 1B with Lane and Lemon, like you said, is it good for USC in that sense this season?
I think for a play caller, it's good because I don't want to speak for Lincoln Riley, but I've been in a lot of offensive team meeting rooms. I've been in a lot of quarterback and offensive coordinator meetings, and there is a point of emphasis of keeping everybody happy, right? When you've got multiple guys on your roster that can make big-time plays, it's a good thing and it can be a bad thing at the same time because you want to keep everybody happy. And when you have too many in that room and not everybody's getting their touches, guys will transfer out like we've seen. Guys will get frustrated. Guys will lack consistency like Jacoby Lane last year. It's not that he played bad in those games. It's just that Deuce Robinson or Zachariah Branch or Makai Lemon or Kyron Hudson were getting their touches in those games, so it was tough for Jacoby to get his. And you're only going to throw the ball so many times in a game, so it's tough to feed everybody when you have 5, 6, 7 guys that can make plays. When you have 1 or 2, they're going to get the majority of the targets. They get in more of a rhythm. They can become more consistent, and that's what we need to see this year, and we saw that in the bowl game. And I think that's going to pay off in the long run. But again, it is always a good thing to have a lot of good players on your roster, and in a position room like the wide receivers do. You just have to have some of these other guys step up and take control.
So we're recording this on a Thursday following head coach Lincoln Riley's media availability. It was a Zoom today, and it was somewhat newsy. It's like retrospective newsy in the sense that he actually disclosed what has been hampering Jacoby Lane in camp. He's been limited. He has been full go, Riley said, for the last couple days, but he broke his foot in May, which apparently the tweet, the way I phrased it, freaked people out. They thought it was current, but he broke his foot in May and now is expected to be full go for the first game. So good news on that front, but Cody, from your perspective, are you worried about a recovery timeline at all? Are you worried that injury might plague him going forward?
Wait, I haven't seen the tweet. How did you word it? Did you really cause a stir on Twitter for everybody?
No, it was just reading comprehension. If I can be sassy for a second,
okay.
It was just said. I just said Jacoby Lane broke his foot in May, but people.
No, you should have said. Back in May,
oh my gosh,
Jacoby Lane broke his foot and is recovering. I might be team Twitter on this one.
Okay.
Because if I read Jacoby Lane broke his foot, I'm dropping my phone before I even finish the rest of the sentence.
I got tweets that were like, I almost spit out my food. Yeah. I almost unsubscribed.
I probably would have called you immediately and said, let's re-edit that. I'm on team Twitter here.
Look, someone turn on a presser and try and tweet at the same time. It's fair. Fair. It's a hard skill.
No, I'm just messing with you. You do a great job of getting all the news out. But with that being said, yeah, I mean, this is news to me. I'm sure it's news to a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously I knew he was limited at times, but it's just a day-by-day thing. Obviously, Lincoln Riley doesn't seem concerned about it, or else he wouldn't be bringing it up. If it was something that he thought would keep him out of significant time or miss some games, then probably he would keep that under wraps because you don't want to give away everything. But, yeah, I mean, well, now the Big Ten, you have to do injury reports. So we would have found out sooner rather than later. But, no, he's the type of guy that I know is going to handle his recovery the right way. He's going to do everything he can to get back out there and you know, you never want to see an injury, but for a wide receiver, it being a foot injury, he can still get on the jug machine, still get in the film room, work on some of those catches, take it easy on some of these practices. I don't need you going full go every rep. Just get enough to where you're staying in shape and you're staying comfortable. But if it was a younger guy who didn't know how to handle this, maybe I'd be a little more concerned. But a vet like Jacoby Lane and the mindset that he has and his willingness to do whatever it takes to be out there, I'm not too concerned. So I expect him to see him full go very soon.
My final question for you about this topic, Cody, is in regard to the fact that USC now has two wide receiver coaches, if you will, outside and inside receivers coach. Do you expect to see anything different from the product on the field based on that?
I don't, because I feel like, Dennis Simmons and Chad Savage are going to they have to be on the same page with everything, right?
Yeah.
Although you have an inside and outside wide receiver, and Savage does work with the tight ends as well, I promise you they're going and doing countless hours of meetings on their own to make sure they're teaching the same thing. They're not contradicting each other. It's going to be a carryover of what we've seen from the last couple of years, because at the end of the day, it is Lincoln Riley's system. It's what he wants them to coach. It just trickles down to them, and now they explain it to the players on a more daily, day-to-day basis, because Lincoln Riley wears other hats. So it's going to be the same thing. It's all under the same umbrella. But hopefully Chad Savage and Coach Simmons obviously being able to focus a lot more on outside receivers, maybe they can add a little tidbit here and there, things that they've learned in their past that can help guys with maybe specific ways to get in and out of breaks, how to read coverage, little things like that. But no, I think it'll all be pretty similar. Again, it's all coming from Coach Riley and what he expects from his wide receiver unit, but it's never a bad thing to have multiple guys in the same room helping each other.
Okay, well, any other thoughts, Cody, before we move on to our next question?
Yeah, one more thing, kind of off topic here, or not, to do with this year's wide receiver room, but Charles Ross, who was a wide receiver here at USC last season, ended up transferring to Purdue, announced on Twitter that he was medically retiring, and I saw that the other day, and I screenshotted it because I wanted to bring that up. Again, we take a lot of pride here at USC as once a Trojan, always a Trojan. You're part of the Trojan family for life. And again, another shout out to USC Twitter. They were showing full support there. So just want to tell Charles, wish him nothing but the best. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but hopefully whatever he does next in life is something that he's going to be successful at. I know how tough that can be to medically retired from a game that you've played your whole life and that you love so much. I've seen teammates do it. I've been around guys that have had to step away from the game for different reasons that were out of their control. So I feel for Charles Ross. Like I said, wish him nothing but the best and fight on. You're always welcome back at the Coliseum if you want to come check out a game or come support the Trojans.
Good call, Cody. I didn't see that, so I'm glad you brought that up. Alrighty, second question for you, Cody, the second topic in our Cover 2 segment. And we got to give love to this phase of the game. We talk a lot about offense, we talk a lot about defense, and we kind of go, oh, right, special teams, that's a thing. But we got to talk about it. And in that sense, what are you expecting from USC's special teams units in 2025?
Yeah, there's not a lot to say about special teams, but we do have to address it. I think it's important. There are going to be some games this year that will come down to special teams, whether it's a game-winning kick or a big moment or just a momentum saving play or a momentum gaining play on the return game.
Sure.
So it's something I think we do have to talk about because it could have a big impact this season. But I'm going to start with a guy that's going to be very dearly missed this year. And for those of you who don't know, USC had a punter last year by the name of Eddie Czaplisky, who was the best punter in the entire country and Ray Guy Award winner, an absolute weapon on, I guess, offensive side of the ball, because I'm going to claim him.
Sure.
Because of, and I'm talking from a quarterback standpoint.
Yeah.
There are times when, you go 3 and out, or you're backed up in your own end zone and you can't move the football, to where you have a guy like Czaplisky that can flip the field. That is an absolute weapon and an advantage to have, because now you go from giving the opposing offense great field position to where they're on their own 20 now, or they're on their own 15, or he's pinning them deep inside their own 5, right? So that is such a weapon to have. It's tough losing him, but now it's time for some of these new faces to step up. There's a competition going on right there. We have Sam Johnson, who in my opinion is probably the early leader, and I've been hearing some good things from him throughout camp. William Weisberg, another guy, and then Ray Sanchez. So hopefully USC can duplicate that same magic they had a year ago in the punt game, or at least close to it. Now, those are some big shoes to fill with Eddie Czaplisky gone, but again, we need to have a solid punter so that we can have that threat of flipping the field and helping the offense out when they struggle to move the football. Another area that's going to be huge on special teams is the field goal unit.
Yeah.
Especially with how many times USC was in these games a year ago. I mean, there were a couple games, I think back to Maryland with the block kick. Think back to some of these times when we had a chance to extend the lead and we couldn't get the job done and we couldn't hit the field goal. Those are so important. Again, it's such a small part of the game, but how many times do you see games in the NFL, in the playoffs, in the college football playoff, in these Big Ten conference games?
It matters.
All these offense and defensive guys bust their tail all game long for 59 and a half minutes, and then the last 30 seconds, it comes down to a field goal kick. It is so important, and you have to have a guy that is dominant at that position. USC lacked that a year ago. They were 14 of 21 in field goals. That was 66%. That was in the bottom 20 in college football. We have to be better, especially being in those tight games. And 2 guys that are competing for that spot right now are Ryan Sayeri and Caden Chittenden. So those are 2 guys to keep an eye on throughout camp to see who's going to win that starting job. But either way, whoever gets that spot, they need to be ready, because there's probably going to be some games this year we're going to have to come in and make a game-winning field goal or ice a game and put it away and turn it into a 2-possession game.
I'm sure for USC fans' nerves, they hope it doesn't come down to a field goal. But of course, you always have to be prepared.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the return game, what are you expecting there?
Yeah, I'm excited this year for the return game, and especially on kickoff return. Last year early on, it was really non-existent. And in the punt game, or the punt return game, there wasn't a lot of spark there. There wasn't a lot of excitement when there was a lot of expectations going into that year and excitement. And then Mekhi Lemon got put back on kickoff return, and we really saw him flip that switch, especially in the Rutgers game. Now, I hope he's back there returning kicks again, and he can have that same type of success and build off of that. But he is going to be a lot bigger factor in the offense this year, to where he can't be back there for every return. We've got to find other guys to help him out. I don't want him, getting tired back there, taking too many unnecessary hits. We need him on the offensive side of the ball. So I look at some of the other guys. DJ Jordan, with his athleticism, a guy I expect to be back there. Wayman Jordan, another guy from the running back room. Eli Sanders can also be back there. He's athletic. He has that speed to take the ball the distance at any point in time. And then Zacharias Williams, the guy coming over from Utah. I've been hearing some good things. Keely has mentioned before.
We've heard his name a lot in camp.
In the special teams. So hopefully he's another guy that can be a factor back there. And then in punt return, some of those same names listed. But I would expect more to see an Xavier Jordan back there, or a DJ Jordan, and then Zacharias Williams as well. But whoever's back there, again, there's going to be games this year where the offense may be struggling to move the football. It's a defensive-dominated game, and there's really nothing happening. You're going to need a kick return or a punt return to spark that momentum and get things going, so you've got to have playmakers back there on the back end.
To your point about keeping Mekhi healthy, I've always wondered, how do you thread the needle of putting your playmakers in playmaking positions, but how do you keep them healthy? And Coach Riley was actually asked about that a week ago, and he said punt return is too important to not put Mekhi back there. So it's going to be interesting to see. You got to keep him healthy.
I'll say this. That is the right thing to say by Coach Riley. But, every factor matters, right? All 3, offensive and special teams. But I promise you, there's a little thing in the back of his head where if he takes one big hit on punt return, or you get a guy running down full speed and he takes an unnecessary hit, hey, you go back there, DJ. Let's go get a return. Hey, Mekhi, get some water this time. Be careful. But there is that fine line between, like Coach Riley said, the importance of special team, but also keeping your guys healthy back there, not taking unnecessary hits, and having him ready to go and not missing the first 2 or 3 plays of a series because he took a big hit or he's tired from a 60, 70-yard return. Now, I don't want to take him out of it, but again, let's put more of the focus on offense. But I love that. That's a great head coach answer right there by Coach Riley. All 3 factors or all 3 phases are all equally as important.
Now, any other thoughts on special teams, Cody? I feel like it's a weird topic where we kind of know what to expect, but we don't fully know until we actually see the game.
Yeah, a lot of new faces at the return position, new punter, new kicker this year. It's really a completely revamped unit. We're going to see some new faces at all 3 phases, or all 4 phases, I guess, on kickoff, kick return, punt return, and then punt. So we'll see what happens there. But again, guys are going to have to step up. It could be a competition that goes into the season. Maybe one punter's hot this week or a guy's hot the next week and trying to replace Czapleski, who's going to be that guy. And then at kickoff or kicker, if someone's struggling throughout the year, hopefully that's not the issue, but you have 2 guys back there that can compete. So you want to feed the hot hand or no pun intended, feed the hot leg and let them go out there and make some kicks. But, it's always a competition there. And I think this often gets overlooked. You know, when you talk about offense and defense, it is important. And there are a lot of games at all 3 levels, high school, college, NFL, to where games are won and lost because of special teams. So we do have to talk about it going into season. That was really our last topic before we get into this year's first game.
I don't think last year we even previewed special teams.
We did not.
So progress. We are making progress. There you go. I want to move us to our next segment. But before we do, I just want to give a thanks to Audi. Talking about progress you can feel, Audi. What you expect from an SUV is a range of sizes to fit your lifestyle. Expectations matter, but exceeding them matters more. The Audi family of SUVs, progress you can feel. There you go.
Look at that transit. You got the smirk and everything. She was like, yeah, that was a good one.
Thank you.
All right, that was nice.
Our next game, if you're familiar with Trojans Live, then you're familiar with this game we're going to play. It's over-under, which we always groan when Jordan Moore makes us do this, but it's on our own terms now, so we're going to have some fun playing it. First one for you, Cody, is about USC's running backs. Last year, USC's running backs had a total of 14 rushing touchdowns. For this upcoming season, I'm setting the line at 14.5. What are you taking here?
I'm going to go over on this one.
Okay.
Last year, Woody Marks had 9 of those.
Yes.
So that was really just a one-dimensional running back room. I know we saw some other guys get some touches with Quentin Joyner and Brian Jackson later on this season, but now we have 3 guys that can all produce. Now, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I expect them all to get their fair share of touches. Multiple guys have breakaway speed. We have guys that have power, that have finesse, all these different things. And I will say this, when we get down in the goal line and get to that low red area, do not overcomplicate it. Give the ball to 21. Let Brian Jackson run somebody over and finish in the end zone. I want 8 to 10 at least this year from Brian Jackson alone.
Yes.
And I don't care if they're 1-yard rushes or 2-yard rushes. Give the ball to 21 down there in the goal line.
Also, I need to reiterate that here at the Victory Podcast, we were OG fans of Brian Jackson.
We were.
I said it last year.
Makai Lemon, too.
That, too, yes.
I don't want to. This isn't a toot our own horn segment. This is over-under. But we have been pretty dang good with our predictions, both of us, on that.
If we can, toot the horn a little bit. There you go. Now, the next one, you already mentioned it. Jacoby Lane had 12 touchdowns last season. I'm setting the line for 2025 at 13.5, giving him a little bit more. What are you taking on that one?
I'm going under with this one.
Oh,
because, and it's no knock on Jacoby, but it's because of the talent in that room, but also what I mentioned earlier, the factor of the tight ends being more involved this year, which I would like to see, especially when we get down to the red zone. We have guys, too, like Prince Strawn, who's 6'5", 215 pounds. Corey Sims, if we see him play a good amount this year, another 6'3", 6'4" body type. So we have other weapons down in the red zone to where we can get them the football. But we also have Lake McCree and Walker Lyons, who I think will be more of a factor, opening up the middle of the field, taking some of those shots when we get to that scoring zone, like we call it, from the 25 and in, where you can have some of those benders and some of those routes over the middle. So I'm going under. No knock on Jacoby, but because I think other guys are going to be more involved and we're going to have more weapons down in the red zone. But I do think Jacoby still gets to double digits at minimum this year. So I would say around 10 or 11 for him. Just I don't think he's going to get quite to what he had a year ago.
Riley talked about earlier this week about how it's just such a unique skill set for the tight ends this year and that there's more depth. Do you feel like that will ultimately push them over the edge to get more involved in the passing game? Because that's something I feel like every preseason we sit here and we go, okay, are the tight ends going to get involved? What to you is the limiting factor as to why that keeps not happening?
I mean, I think last year one of the biggest issues was Lake McCree getting injured, right? So then Walker Lyons was forced to play early, and then we have some other young guys on the roster that had to step up. So I think keeping them healthy is a big factor. Also, Walker Lyons get more comfortable, and you can see him now getting back into football shape. People forget that he missed a couple years going on a mission before he came to USC. So now he's getting back into full-go football shape, has a year under his belt, back in rhythm, been seeing some great things from him in camp. And then Walter Matthews, another guy, Joey Olson. There's really 4 or 5 guys in that room that can make an impact. But if Lake McCree and Walker Lyons can stay healthy this year, I don't see why they can't be one of the best 1-2 punch at tight ends this year in the country.
Yeah, and Lake McCree was leading USC in receiving
before his injury.
Yep,
100%.
Exactly, at Michigan. So it'll be interesting. Really curious to see if that actually happens because I think it unlocks another part of Riley's
100%.
offense that we fully haven't seen yet here at USC. So looking forward to that. Alrighty, next one is looking at USC's offense as a whole. Last year, the team averaged 30.2 points per game. This year, I'm setting the line at 35.5. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to go over with this one, and that's not just a prediction. That is a necessity. That needs to happen this year if USC wants to get back to being dominant on the offensive side of the ball. In 2022, when they were one game away from going to the college football playoff, they averaged over 41 points per game. Last year, like you mentioned, they only averaged 30 points per game. Now, I know the defenses in the Pac-12 are a lot different than the defenses that we're facing in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
The Pac-12, you're throwing the ball 50 times a game, and you know, it's a shootout. Big Ten's a lot more of a balanced attack, and it's tough to move the football up and down the field. But overall, if USC wants to be dominant in this conference, they have to get back to doing what they do best, and that's Lincoln Riley dialing up these unbelievable game plans and putting together these big-time plays and these explosive offenses and forcing these teams in the Big Ten who aren't capable of scoring 30, 35, 40 points per game, forcing them to have to keep up and turn it into a shootout. And then when you get the lead, be a little bit more balanced and lean on the run game and do these things. But overall, USC needs to go back up like we've seen before in points per game, and they need to force these other opponents to try to keep up in this conference.
Alrighty, next one. This is a point we've talked about before. We got a question about it, I believe, last week. But last year, USC had 12 interceptions. I'm setting the line at 12.5. What can this defense do in 2025, Cody?
Yeah, I'm going over on this one as well. And this is another necessity, in my opinion. We need to get back to being a takeaway team. It is great to have a great pass defense. It is great to have a solid run defense. But if you want to separate yourself and become one of the best defenses in the country, you have to create turnovers and takeaways at a pretty consistent rate. You've got to be a team each week that's going to create spark plays on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's an interception, a sack fumble, a pick six even would be great, but that starts with our secondary and make some plays on the football. I believe that we do have the guys back there to do it now and have some playmakers that I think are going to surprise some people, even with Prophet Brown being out. I think we have some guys that can make some plays on the football and have that athletic body type and that long range to cover at the safety position. I need at least 5 from Kamari Ramsey for this to be true, so I'm putting that pressure on number 7, and I know he can handle it, but I would love to see this defense get back to being not only great at stopping the run and stopping the pass, but being a takeaway defense as well.
You know what's interesting? We talk about how good the 2022 season was as far as takeaways. It was 19. For some reason in my mind, I thought it was way more than that, but 19 is still, it's...
That would hit the over. I would take 19 every single day of the week.
Fair,
and that's one of the better numbers in the country that year. So, I would absolutely take that. Like I said, be solid in the run game. Be solid in the pass game. I love, pass defense. I love pass breakups. I love all that. Tip balls, overthrows. But to be a great defense, you have to be a takeaway defense. You have to create turnovers. And then flip side of that, it's the offensive job to protect the football as well and be dominant in the turnover margin.
Already, our final one, admittedly, is a dumb one.
You didn't tell me this one, by the way.
I did not tell you this one.
Purposely. Normally, we go through our prep and we put a lot of work into preparation. I saw on the note sheet that you said you'll find out the day of a fun one.
And a smiley face. I put it in the script.
You did put a smiley face.
So last year, I got sick 2 times during the season.
We go. Okay.
I'm setting the line at 1.5. Are you taking the over or under for how many times I get sick this year?
Please play at home, too. If you know Keely's track record, I am going over. I'm surprised you did 1.5.
Really?
We're going to get probably 2 before flu season even starts. Whether it's just a migraine or
Are you? What is the definition of sick here?
Yeah, exactly. Because there were some times where you're going on 1 or 2 hours of sleep, and then you just didn't feel good. So does that count? What's the specifics
No, this
here?
is like we skip an episode, we go MIA because that means I'm sick. That type of thing.
I would drive over to the bank right now. I'd call my financial advisor, empty my entire account, and put it all on the over right now in Vegas.
Oh my!
That
goodness.
It is going to be over 1.5. Now I hope it isn't. I'm not preying on your downfall here.
I know. You're realistic.
But for those of you who have followed along with this podcast for a couple years,
they're screaming over right now.
The line should be like 4.5 is what I would say. 3.5 maybe. And I would still probably take the over.
And you know what's crazy too? And this is not my fault. And this is the weird thing about being around a team. Like usually a sickness just goes through the team. And there's a little bit of a cold right now going through the team. And I'm like, no one get near me. My throat was a little sore earlier this week. I'm fine now, but I know.
You probably gave it to the team over here now. You're the one that's doing the interviews with the microphones.
No.
But I never thought I would come to a podcast episode playing a game over under and leave here rooting for Keely's immune system to fail her. For me to win the over.
No, we are not rooting for that.
No, I'm kidding. I don't want it to happen, but I'm betting the house that it will.
I'm not doing quick hits anymore. I should be sleeping more. Okay. Emphasis on should.
Emily's back there grinning behind the DJ booth right now like, yeah, I'm taking the over as well.
Oh, my gosh. Emily, what's your answer?
Over under. Yeah, over.
No
hesitation.
No hesitation. She said over. Wow. Okay.
I can't wait to see the comments, too, because I guarantee you everyone's going to say over on this.
Tweet me your answers.
Also, though, all jokes aside, I'd love to hear everyone's over-under as well on all of these topics. I think these are very good questions, very well put together. Some very important topics going into this season. So it'll be interesting to follow along this year and see if we hit on these.
Yeah, special shout out to Andrew who helped put this segment together.
Yeah.
He did all the stats and everything. So thank you, Andrew. All right, I want to go into questions. Before we do, just want to give a thanks to Ralph's. At Ralph's, you get high quality and low prices, so you never have to compromise on your budget. Save on thousands of items throughout the store. Ralph's, fresh for everyone. Alrighty, first question comes from Trojan Nation 5. Who said, which position group do you guys think is a sleeping giant going into this season? Even with Prophet Brown going down for a while, I still think the DB group is going to be elite. Love the show. Fight on. # Cody, drop your meal plan already, please. If you're one of those people, stay tuned. It's coming at the end.
I got a lot of questions.
Health influencer, Cody Kessler.
Well, I told the story about my off-season meal prep and kind of body transformation and all of that. And I mentioned if you really want to know the exact details,
ins and outs,
send me a DM, send me a message. I got so many of them, and we got a bunch of replies about it. So the last question, as promised, I will give a full breakdown. We're not sponsored, but I'll drop app names. I'll drop all of that so you have everything that you need to do the same thing. But sticking with that question, I love it. I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. I think the DBs are going to make a big improvement this year. But I'm going with the defensive line, not just the interior or the exterior. I'm going with both D ends and the D tackles this year. I love all the guys that were returning. We've got a lot of young players that are going to step up this year. We've got Braylon Shelby, Anthony Lucas, Jade Abasiri, Devin Tompkins. You've got Cameron Fountain, I think, is due for a breakout year. Yeah. Some of these guys that got some experience last year, I can't wait to see them play. And then you got some vets like Kobe Pepe. You got Jarrett, Big Jaw, as well as Little Jaw, Jakeem Stewart. But I'm excited for both of those guys. Keyshawn Silver coming over from Kentucky. So I think that room is due for a big breakout year. Not only do they have to this year. If we want to be dominant in the Big Ten, we've got to stop the run. We've got to get pressure in the backfield, some tackles for loss, get some pressure on the quarterback, some sacks and sack fumbles. And then the best thing that we have is Coach Henney and Sean Nua coaching those guys up. So I'm excited for that unit. I think those are going to be guys that are going to break out in that room.
An unintentional theme of this episode is the have-tos for this season.
The have-tos, the need-tos. We're a week away with the fun, playful off-season episodes, hey,
we were just
hopefully
laughing
this.
like 5 minutes ago.
Well, I'm talking about football topics.
Yes.
We're not talking about immune systems here, but
Fair.
Talking about, hey, hopefully this guy breaks out. Those are done with. We're 10 days away. If this USC team, we're locked in. You can tell I'm getting a little more serious. Just wait till next week, too. You think I'm locked in and talking a lot.
Talk about film watching.
Wait till we get to the breakdown episodes. I'm chomping at the bit, but it's go time. These things have to happen. It is time for USC to turn the corner this year, and if we want to do that, the D-line has to break out. The defense as a whole has to break out under Denton Lynn in year 2, and the guys on the offense have to follow suit as well.
Now, we got a couple questions about the news that came out earlier this week. It was about DJ Wingfield. Unfortunately, the court ruled that he cannot play this year. He's effectively just moving on to the next level. So, unfortunately, USC does not get to have him playing in the Cardinal and Gold this season. But he was with the team for a while, and Riley was obviously devastated by that news and wished DJ luck going forward. But we had questions from Cameron and John who said, does it impact play calling, and how much impact will it have?
Yeah, first and foremost, you just hate to see that. I feel for him. It's unfortunate, the timing of it as well. We were very excited. We spoke so highly about him when we talked about the spring enrollee guys and from the transfer portal. He was probably the top of that list. Very experienced offensive lineman, was going to be a big factor in that room. But pertaining to those questions, it's next man up mentality. And the only, I guess, negative or the only positive from this is that since he's been out during this time period throughout camp, some of these younger guys have been forced to step up. Some of these backups have had to play more with the ones, and they've been able to rotate some other guys instead of this news coming out, a day before the season starts, and now these guys all of a sudden have to step up and make some plays. So I don't think the play calling will change too much because they've had time throughout camp to see what works, to see what unit can do what. Pass protection, run blocking, all those different things. But at the end of the day, you hate to see it, but that's kind of how football is. Now, this is a unique situation, but it's the same thing with being a backup. You're one play away, you're one situation away. Some of these different things happen, and you've got to be ready to go when your name's called upon.
That's basically how Riley summarized it. He said, obviously it's devastating, but at the same time, we can't put too much into it in the fact that, it's kind of like an injury where it's next man up. So he said, we've been repping that in fall camp. So in that sense, I'm going to transition us to the next question.
Okay.
Dan said, from left to right, who do you believe will be the starting offensive line against Missouri State?
Yeah, this is strictly prediction, by the way. I have not been to a live practice, and I don't know what that rotation looks like, but just based off of what I've seen in the spring, what we've seen from last year, going from left to right, if I had to put a unit out there right now, left tackle, I would go with Elijah Page, which I think is a guaranteed. Left guard, I'm going with Micah Benuelos, is a guy who we've heard a lot of high things about. He's stepped up. He's kind of been that next man up with some of these injuries in the last couple of years. At center, we've got the veteran John Ray Reed, the transfer from Syracuse. At right guard, we're going with Alani Noah. Younger guy, but now kind of a veteran in that room with experience. And then right tackle, I like Tobias Raymond. I know we've talked about Justin Tawanu'u. Yeah. Keep an eye on him. But I think Tobias Raymond, if the season started today or next week with Missouri State, you could expect those 5 guys to play. Now, will it be a situation where, no knock on Missouri State, but it's a lesser opponent? So are we going to see some rotational guys like we've seen in the past for the first couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Try out some different things during game week, because it's a lot different in practice than it is when the lights are on and the bullets are flying. Yeah. You don't get to redo a rep. So I think that would be the first 5 to go out there, and then I expect some of these other guys to rotate in as well.
2 things I'm curious about in terms of the starting offensive line and how much rotation we see. Riley has praised Tobias multiple times, but especially this week for his versatility. I have seen it practice some guard reps from Tobias, and they've talked about that, so I'm not breaking anything here. So do we see him at guard? Do we see him at tackle? I'm not sure about that. And also, they've spoken so highly of the coaches of Killian O'Connor, who a big fan of him here at the Victory Podcast.
Big fan.
He got a scholarship this offseason, but apparently he's been making waves at that center position as well. So is there a competition between him and Reed? I don't know. So question marks there, and curious to see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, I think everyone's eyes are going to be locked on that offensive unit when they go out there to start the season, and that's a great thing for Tobias Raymond, like you mentioned, the versatility. You can play tackle, you can play guard, you can play on both sides of the football. It's going to allow you to get more reps. It's going to give you more opportunities if you can have that versatility. So, yeah, it's going to be a good thing to keep an eye on. I just see him more as a tackle, in my opinion. But again, I haven't seen the practices. Maybe he's crushing it right now, like you mentioned, at guard, and he's more comfortable there. So we might see him make that move to the inside.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm very curious. Definitely going to look for that one.
That's a guess. This is a guess for me, by the way. No one come at me like, hey, that's wrong. We have not seen in full what they're doing at practice right now or what the ones look like. So this is just me making a prediction.
Talk about a recap episode. Offensive line will be one of those topics. Don't you worry. We got a question from Ricky who said, across the coaching staff, whose impact or voice has stood out most in shaping the locker room culture? Now, this is a tricky one. Obviously, we're not in the room and we're not have a helmet on and we're practicing. So we can't fully, give our opinion because we're not there. But I would just say, from what we've heard from both players and coaches, I would go Coach True. His discipline
it's a good one.
I mean, Eric Gentry talked about it. His quote was, "It wasn't a hell week; it was a hell summer." The adversity that the team had to go through. So I think that, in my opinion, from what I've heard, would be my answer.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I've heard nothing but great things from Coach True. Looking at the coaching staff and the guys on the field, though, I think obviously it starts with Coach Riley being the voice in the locker room and setting the culture and the standard. And he's done a great job of that. But 2 guys that are always making an impact on the field and are very vocal are Coach Henney, and I love the way that he coaches and the mindset he brings, and then also the legendary Rob Ryan. We have heard nothing but great things about him. I'm in Irvine right now, and I can hear him yelling from Howard Jones during practice time on the field. So 2 guys that are great for the culture of your program, so I'm excited to see what they do this year.
Well, speaking of Coach True, we have a question from John who said, what kind of impact does a strength and conditioning coach have on a season's injury statistics? What impact do you think Coach True will have on that aspect of our performance this year? Thanks so much for your excellent work on this production. You are so appreciated. Fight on. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you. Fight on. That is a great question, by the way. Very good question. There are multiple things for a coach or a strength coach throughout the season that are so important that are behind the scenes. They get overlooked. They are the most important when it comes to recovery. I know you have your trainers in the training room and you go in there and you see the doctors and you work with recovery with those guys. But the first thing you do after a game is you go to your recovery and then you go get a recovery lift in and you work. You make sure you're stretching properly. You make sure you're working out all the soreness. You're doing mobility stuff, functional movement, all these different things going in your warm-up lines and all of that. If you don't stay loose, if you don't recover the right way, injuries are going to pile up. That also started when he stepped foot on campus, making sure you train the right way, proper technique, proper wear and tear. You're not overdoing it too much, but you're also doing enough to where your body's ready and can withstand the entirety of a season and all the pressure with cutting on your knee and taking those hits and being strong enough to be able to be physically dominant throughout the year. So that is a great question. The strength coach is as important as a head coach, as a position coach throughout the year, as important as the trainers in the training room and making sure that the guys are getting healthy. So he's going to have a big impact on this season, and hopefully we don't see a lot of injuries. Hopefully guys stay healthy. And there are things that are not preventable, and injuries are going to happen, and freak accidents happen. But when it comes to those minor wear and tear things, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured.
Yeah.
Those little things, those times where a hamstring little issue or a non-contact issue, some of those things, if you are training and preparing the right way, those are avoidable, and I feel like Coach True is the right guy to get this team there.
Bush Push 55 said, what's your favorite game day tradition? Now, I was curious if you had an answer for this because you were playing, so I don't know.
I have two, and this is cool for me because I get to talk about someone no longer in my life but was special in my life. The first one was every time on a home game, we would get off the bus and we would do the Trojan walk, right? You know how they would shake the bus and the fans would line up and you get off and say hi to your family real quick in the gated area, and then you start the Trojan walk. Well, my grandma Larimore, rest in peace, love her to death. She's unbelievable. Her name was June Larimore. She was in a wheelchair for every game, but by golly, she was going to be there. She couldn't get into the family section. So every single game, as I would get off the bus, my Uncle Larry would wheel her over to the left side of the bus. And people probably remember this and saw her, and I have pictures of it. But he would wheel her to the left side of the bus. And no matter what, every single home game, I get emotional talking about it, but I would make sure I would go left first, go give her a hug and a kiss, hug my Uncle Larry, and then walk to the Trojan walk, say hi to my parents and everybody, and then get ready for the game. But that was the coolest thing for me. I mean, she was, and she was my great-grandma, so I was fortunate enough to have her in my life for 23 years, which is rare for a great-grandma. She had my Nana, my dad's mom, very young. My Nana had my dad very young, so the positive thing of that was I got to be around my great-grandma for a while. We lived with her for a little while, too. And she just had a huge impact on my life. She got kicked out of basketball games at AAU tournaments for yelling at refs. I mean, she did not play about her family and about her grandson. And she made sure she was at every game. So that was a must for me. As soon as I got off the bus, I had to walk over there and give my grandma Larimore a hug. And then I was ready for game day. And then the other one was I would always say a prayer that kind of quieted everything, right before kickoff when everybody runs out of the tunnel and you run down to the opposite end zone. And, we talked about last week with me listening to the hype up music and rap and house music, getting pumped up. And then I listened to a gospel song right before we went out to calm down. And then that final moment of locking in was running to the end zone, saying a quick prayer. And then after that, I kind of tuned everything out. It felt like I was by myself. I was alone. I was in my own zone. And then the game would start. So those are two for me that were a must before kickoff. But yeah, the first one, getting to talk about my grandma Larimore was a cool thing. But yeah, I'm glad that question came up because that was cool to get to go down memory lane with that.
No, that's really sweet. I didn't know that about you. That's
really I'll try to find some pictures. Maybe we can put them up on one of the episodes or post it on Twitter. But every game, she'd be sitting there in her wheelchair. And as soon as I came off the bus, turn left, give her a hug, and then go do the Trojan walk.
That's so cute. Alrighty, as promised, our final question comes from Sean Tong, who said, I need the complete meals and snacks you had, Cody. Please, I need this to fight on and better my health, he says.
I love it. Sean Tong was on me on Twitter, too, about it. He was not letting it go. Shout out to Sean Tong. And it wasn't just him. There was a lot of people that responded on DMs, on message board, or on Twitter, Instagram, that wanted to know kind of the full
breakdown. Take it away,
full
Cody.
Everything. So instead of responding to everybody individually, I just told everyone, tune into the next week's episode, get some more views. I'll explain it all right there. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll give you the quick version, but it's the full breakdown version, so we're not here for 30 minutes. By the way, if you don't want to hear this, fight on.
We'll see you next week.
We love you guys. Thanks for watching the
episode.
show. This is now turned into Cody's Fitness Influencer Era podcast. But so basically what I explained last week was I ate into maintenance or a little bit of a surplus for a while just to get my weight up, was lifting heavy, hypertrophy training. You've got to lift heavy, which that means you're going up in weight, you're going up in reps pretty much every time you work out, even if it's 2.5 pounds, whatever it may be, to gain that muscle. Yeah, to failure. Well, the first two are, 8, 9 reps. The last one normally is to failure. Every time you get to that last set.
You're supposed to be going
No, look at you. You know what you're talking about. Hypertrophy training. So anyways, I was doing that, lifting heavy, working to failure. That was kind of the setup. Then I did a mini cut before Good Morning Football. Saw glimpses of how good it can be. Good Morning Football kind of threw it off a little bit because of that schedule. So here we are, back to what we talked about last week. I went on a full bulk, got to 220. Unhealthy bulk. I wouldn't recommend that unless you're starting out and you want to gain weight and put muscle on, because when you go on a cut, you're going to lose muscle and you're going to lose fat. You'll lose a lot more fat, but it's inevitable. You're going to lose a little bit of muscle. The more you have, the less you're going to lose. So what I did was to go into my cut for those 8 weeks. You're going to download the Macro Factor app. We're shouting out apps. We're not sponsored.
Detailed.
But it is an app called Macro Factor, MacroFactor. All one word. It's a black square with an M on the middle. Is I think what the logo looks like. It's by a guy named Jeff Nippard. He is great videos. Awesome. He is awesome. If you've never watched his YouTube videos, he's a fitness influencer. He is this science-based lifter guy, right? Yeah. He talks about all the science behind things. As a former professional athlete, that's big for me because I don't need you to tell me what I'm doing. I need you to tell me why I'm doing it. Yep. Don't just say, hey, do X, Y, Z. you do X, Y, and Z because of A, B, C, and then I see why it works. That's what I like. So check his videos out if you're thinking about bulking, cutting, lifting. He is amazing. But I went and downloaded his app. It is going to tell you, you're going to sign up for the free trial, exactly, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions of what you want to do. I want to lose weight, and be honest, be transparent. Don't lie. No one's going to see this. It's all confidential. Be completely honest, and you have to be on like what you're going to do too.
Realistic.
You can't just be realistic. You can't just say it and not do it. So I said, I want to lose weight. I'm going to work out, and I said 6 to 7 days a week because I knew I was going to. I'm going to, do all these things. This is how active I am. This is body type, all these different things, height, weight, former athlete, all of that stuff. It will then calculate everything, and it'll give you your maintenance calories. I was right around anywhere from 3,000 to 3,200, I think, was my maintenance. I said I want to go on a cut. So it told you, if you want to go onto a cut and you want to lose, and it'll ask you, I weigh 220, I want to be 195, and I want to lose 2 pounds per week, or I want to lose, it'll ask you at what rate you want to go at, and it'll say, okay, your end date will be blank. I started in December, your end date's going to be in June, whatever it may be. So I knew I wanted to go on 8 weeks. This is the weight I wanted to get to. Put all that information in there. It gives you the exact caloric intake, like how many calories to eat, the exact protein, the exact carbs, and the exact fat. Those are all macros. You have to do them. Now, the next step was the hardest part. And I found some apps. I think one was called Built with Science is what it was called, or Built for Science. It was a site to where it gave me like 50 options on meal plans or 50 suggestions or ideas or examples to where it counted carbs, calories, fat, all that stuff, protein. But I had to eat it in exact weight. And that was tough, or the exact set every single day was figuring out. You've got to pull and push and try different things to get that exact number. So I ended up getting, I think, 2,100 calories is what I was at, 217 grams of protein, 215 grams of carbs, and 78 grams of fat. I had to find meals to stay full throughout the day that hit that exactly. So that's a little tough. That's probably the hardest part. Now, Shantong asked the exact meals. Yours will probably be a little different. I'll run through mine real quick. And this was all, healthy foods, organic foods, wherever you can shop at. Ralph's is a good place. I got my strawberries. Yeah, strawberries and bananas from Ralph's. That is a sponsor. Shout out Ralph's. And then some other stores to find different stuff. But so breakfast, and go buy a scale. You need to weigh and measure everything.
Food scale.
Which is crazy too, because if you are even like 5 to 10 grams over, which is an extra 15 calories, you're like, all right, 15 calories, whatever. But if you, or 10 calories, but that 10 calories for one day may not seem like a big deal, but then by the end of the week, that's 70 extra calories, and those add up. And then by the end of the month, that's 300 extra calories, to where it's like, where did that come from? Well, you're 5 to 10 over each day. That's why you got to be exact. So anyways, I would do yogurt for the morning. So I would go 340 grams of yogurt. Then I would put in stevia, which is like a sweetener, a healthy sweetener. I'd put stevia in there, and then I would mix that all together. So 340 grams of that. Then I would get strawberries, cut them up, 110 grams of strawberries. Then I would get 30 grams of Truly Elizabeth is that is the health. I get the cookie granola. It's super healthy, 130 grams or 130 calories, good on your healthy carbs, all that. That's the best granola in my opinion. And then I would do 16 grams of unsweetened, unsalted peanut butter and put that in there. So that would all add up.
Healthy
Boom,
fat.
breakfast is done. Then my snack would be 4 ounces of chicken, organic, skinless, boneless chicken, 4 ounces, no seasoning, nothing on it.
No
seasoning? Plain. Chicken, those add up. You got to be careful. Your best friend during this is going to be calorie-free condiments. I promise you.
Yes.
So anyways, completely plain chicken, 4 ounces every day, 25 grams of raw bell pepper, red bell pepper, 81 grams of carrots, 6 grams of pecans. I would get G. Hughes sugar-free barbecue sauce. Shout out G. Hughes. And then I would mix it with organic mustard for a little, barbecue mustard mix in for the chicken. That was where I would get the flavoring from. That was my snack. Then I would go lift, hypertrophy training. And I'll get to that in a second, what app I use for that. Heavy lift, super heavy. Come home. Then I would do my shake, which was 12 ounces of sugar-free, just super healthy organic almond milk. And then I would mix it with Transparent Labs. If you're going to do stuff, it's a little pricey, but it's worth it if you want to spend a little extra. There's also other good proteins. You don't have to, but Transparent Lab, whey, French vanilla protein is what I would get. 1 scoop of that. So it's 12 ounces almond milk, 1 scoop of that, 1 banana, and then another 16 grams of peanut butter. Mix that all together, drink it. Then I would drink my creatine right after, which was Transparent Labs, creatine monohydrate plus HMB. I would recommend everyone to get creatine. There are other good creatines. That was the best one I found with the best ingredients, the healthiest, if you will. And that was the one that I used. I love Transparent Labs. I think they're the best. And then after that, I would be ready for my lunch / meal after my workout, because I would just do that snack and the protein shake after. That would be, I would get a case or box of ground turkey.
Okay.
That was 98%, 98% lean, 2% fat, right? Healthy. Mix that up in half, one for one day and one for the next day, and I would make 4 individual turkey burgers off of that.
Okay.
I would have 2 for one day, 2 for the next day. I would get an organic whole wheat bun, make a double patty turkey sandwich, cut it in half. That would have a little bit of pepper and a little bit of garlic salt on it.
Okay.
Very light amount just for a little flavoring. Cut that in half, and then I would get an avocado, cut the avocado in half, and eat half of that for a healthy fat. That would be my next meal. And then I made a little concoction with that. That one got rough after a while. But sure. I would do sriracha, 0 calories, by the way. Sriracha is going to be your best friend. I did sriracha, G. Hughes, sugar-free barbecue sauce, and then I would do mustard, and I did relish. Relish is 0 calories also.
Interesting.
That is awesome. Only certain relishes. I think dill or one of them. One of them's no calories. So mix that together, make a little In-N-Out sauce, I guess, type concoction, sure. and eat that. And then dinner every night would be 80 grams of, and for the ground turkey, cut it in half exactly, right? And then use 1 bun and then use half an avocado. Just ballpark that. And then dinner every night would be 80 grams. I'd weigh it uncooked, 80 grams of whole wheat pasta, whole wheat spaghetti, and then organic whole wheat spaghetti, 80 grams of that. Then I would do 140 grams of frozen Key West pink shrimp. Okay. Is what I would use. And then I would do, I think 1.5 teaspoons of butter and then 1.5 tablespoons of oil. Those are small, little tiny things. Sure. So you can measure them however you want. But I just measured it to where it would hit the different calories that I needed or healthy fats and all that. Yeah. And then I would add in 1 teaspoon or tablespoon of lemon sauce or lemon juice to make it a little flavoring. Every night I would eat that. And then I would do arugula and chives on top for flavor. And then I would eat that, and then that was it. That is a full day of eating. Again, if you don't want to listen to all this, please don't listen to all this. This is for everyone that asked. And then let's get to the workouts. So that was meal plan. And then the final thing is the workouts. I have trained at the highest level in the NFL. I've worked with a lot of strength coaches, a lot of great strength coaches. When I got done playing, I started doing some random workouts where I would do stuff that I pulled from here. I didn't like it. I wanted to have a regimen. I wanted to have a system to where I knew push, pull, legs, or up or low, whatever it may be, to where there was a plan in place that I can see long-term effects. The Ladder app, Ladder, is unbelievable. Coach Corey Perkins is the guy's name. It's Team Forge is what it's called. It is unreal. It is so good. It's one of the best workout apps that I've ever seen. And I've kind of, I put it to the test with all of the, years of lifting in the NFL and in college and working with high-level strength coaches. This by far hits everything you need. It's safe. It's effective. It's hypertrophy. So you're going to be lifting heavy. You're going to do these max reps. You're going to do these till failure reps, but they're so important to do those if you want to gain muscle. So I did that 6 days a week. It's awesome too, because you can turn his voice off, but within the app, it's like a personal trainer right there with you. Coaching you. But you don't have to talk to him in person. On my headphones, it'll just be like, all right, here we go, guys. The next thing we got is, back squat. Remember, we're going, butt to grass is not what they say. But anyway, so it kind of tells you, let's go all the way down, get your depth. We're going to go 8 sets here. Last week you did, 225. This week, I want you to put 2.5 on each side. Let's try to go from 8 reps. Now we're going to 6 reps since we're going up in weight. Or if you're keeping the same weight, go from 8 reps to 9 reps, right? So things like that. So Ladder app, download that. And then again, the most important thing, it's not an app. It's not a meal plan. It's none of that. It's you. It's consistency. It really is. Like, it's going to be tough. It's going to suck at times. But I promise you, once you get in a rhythm after the first week or two, it is unreal. And I told Keely last week that, seeing your body transformation and the physical aspects are amazing, but the mental side of things are what are even better. Like, you just feel so much more fresh in the morning. You're clear. You don't feel groggy. You don't feel like you ate bad food the night before until you can feel it weighing you down and you feel off. You feel rested. So it's awesome. 2 things I will add. I mentioned it last week. Element packets in the morning for electrolytes. And then I would drink over 120 ounces of water every single day too. If you're going to do creatine, make sure you're hydrating. Just do it in general. But that is, I don't think I forgot anything, but that is exactly what I did. Crazy. For 8 weeks, for 60 days. And it paid off. It was awesome. Right now I'm going back into a bulk now. So I'm trying to gain weight through the winter, and then the cut will start again in the summer. So, or after winter's over, starting next year, but it's definitely worth it. So if you guys want to do it, if there's any other questions, again, you can ask me, but that's everything pretty much you need to know. Sorry for the long rant. People wanted to know, Cody. But that's why I didn't message as well, because I would have wrote probably 7 paragraphs to write all that. So I just wanted to talk about it. So now there you go. If I didn't believe you, and I definitely believed you prior to this, you can believe you based on the fact that you recited the grams
from memory.
I don't. So at first, I wrote it all down. By about week 2, I haven't even used that anymore.
That's
like
insane.
I knew exactly 340 for yogurt, 110 for strawberries, 16 for this, 30 for that. Like I knew everything, and I could still do it to this day. So
for people who don't know you personally, I feel like this is a great window into you personally because you are that
precise.
Psycho.
I'm a perfectionist.
Yes,
perfectionist to the fullest word.
Yes,
I mean to the fullest extent. It really is. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, again, I hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I didn't want to talk that much. I feel bad that people are sitting there like, all right, come on, dude. But I wanted to explain it fully because we've gotten a ton of questions about it.
People wanted to know.
And people wanted to know. So I wanted to make sure. I just want to see other Trojans succeed as well. If you're thinking about it, if you want to do it, I like seeing people be successful. I like seeing people going out there and working hard. And it's good to make your mind do hard things, right? When you tell yourself, there's no way I can do this. Yes, you can. Just tell your mind to shut up and go do it. Like it's awesome. And I know there's other things that happen with work and life and kids and other things that get involved, but you can still find time. And it doesn't have to be to the extent I did it. You can still, slowly work it in and then get there and find what works for you. But at the end of the day, like if you're thinking about doing it, please do it. It is 100% worth it.
Also, I just feel the need to have a legal disclaimer. Please consult with your doctor before doing any type of plan. This was Cody's personal experience. Yeah. Do not apply this to you. Always ask your doctor.
I did it. Yeah, I wouldn't do 1,000 calorie cut either. That's a little aggressive to start, but I knew that I knew that I wanted to get there in 8 weeks, so I was a little more on the aggressive side. If like even 200 to 300 calorie to start out with, or even 100 just to slowly ease into it, see how your body responds, that's fine. I'm just telling you exactly what I did. This is not a recommendation. This is an explanation, I guess I should say.
Yes. Just wanted to put that out there because, as you did mention, you have trained at the highest level, so you know what you're doing to a certain extent. I want to make sure that other people consult the professionals as well.
There you go. But and then same thing with creatine. If you want to make sure, just check before you take anything in the transparent lab. The only reason I said that is because, again, it's an explanation. Everyone wanted to know what I did. That's exactly what I did. And that you don't have to use the same exact stuff. If you have a creatine you trust or protein you trust, please, by all means, do that. Just make sure you're reading, what the macros are, protein, calories, all that. So there we go. That was a lot of talking.
Cody.
This was more of now this has turned into a fitness influencer episode than a football podcast.
It was interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully people learned something. And if you didn't listen to that, that's fine too. Fight on. We love you. But yeah.
Alrighty, Cody. The final preseason episode is now in the books. The next episode you hear from us is going to be a preview episode. It's here, the 2025 season, Cody.
Yeah, we are 1 week away, people, from USC football. I am done talking, though. I've done enough. Done enough this episode. Fight on. Love you guys. Can't wait for the preview episode next week and for USC football next Saturday.
Alrighty, you heard the man. We'll be back next week with the preview episode. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks so much for listening. That's Cody. I'm Keely. We'll see y'all next time.